Welcome to the On-Premise IT Roundtable podcast, the only show that dares to be both on topic and on location, or on-premise and on-premises. Each time we meet, we bring together IT luminaries to discuss a single topic. In this episode, we're discussing digital transformation. It's a myth, right? That doesn't really exist. Before we begin, let's quickly meet who's on the panel today.
I'm Chris Groneman. You can find me on Twitter at Chris Groneman or chrisgroneman.com.
I'm Rita Younger, on Twitter, SDN_girl, and at totalpackets.com.
I'm Chris Williams. On Twitter, I am at Mistwire, Mistwire, and I'm also mistwire.com.
My name is Kati Lehmuskoski. I'm the host of the site underthehood.fi.
So, as I said, today we're discussing digital transformation. And frankly, the reason that we're discussing this is because we have Kati here, because she's probably the expert in this subject. So before we begin, can you just give us a little introduction? What is digital transformation?
Thank you. It's great being here. So basically, digital transformation is moving the organization from traditional to digital. So it means pretty much different things for different organizations. I would say that there are 5 different types of digital transformation. So it could be moving the main product from physical to digital. It could be creating additional digital services. It could be utilizing channels like social media, or it could be making service or product development agile and fast, or 5th, improving the production chain.
So essentially what we're talking about is moving services into this digital world so that people who are plugged in and on the internet involved will recognize all companies as digital companies. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like before you had a book and now you have digital books.
All right. So Rita, what do you think?
If you look at companies such as the banking industry, the largest banks in the world are not just financial institutions. They are actually IT companies, right? If you consider your phones, for example, you're going to use your phones and you're going to choose a bank because of what they have as far as their mobile applications. You want to deposit your checks using your phone. That's digital transformation. We live in a self-service world. So every aspect of organizations, from IT to customer service, digital transformation is here to stay.
So I think the digital transformation could be considered a myth in the idea that there may not be an end state, right? So while we are on this trend towards more digitization, towards more constant communication through social media channels or online digital advertising, or moving your product to a digital realm, I don't know that you're ever done with that. And transformation to me seems like something that you complete at some point. And I'm not convinced that there is an end point.
How I would answer to that is like, it's more continuous digital transformation. We're actually making the transformation again and again. Something that you did last year is not relevant this year, and you need to do it again.
So as any good architect will tell you, the answer is it depends. What we find in the field, generally you'll see companies that are somewhere along the line of digital transformation. They'll either be at the very beginning of it. An example of that would be, you know, ledgers and books and manual entry, all the way up to what Rita was talking about with, banks that have a very high level of digital transformation. I think that you have to take a look at every use case individually and gather the requirements of what that company considers to be digital transformation and where they want to go and what their use case is to get them there. The answer is digital transformation is a myth. That can depend greatly with a lot of varying degrees based upon the company that you're looking at.
I think any company that doesn't embrace digital transformation, they're going to get left behind, point blank. So whether it's a pizza company to a mall, whatever it happens to be, they're going to get left behind. So the good news for all of us in this industry, digital transformation is ongoing. There is no end game to it, and it means we all have jobs, right?
So I think the one counterpoint to that I would say is I think some of this digital transformation comes from the original ideal. Peter Thiel kind of said it, right, with the software is eating the world. And that's, while I think it's true, right, I don't want to argue necessarily specifically against that, there is a dirty little secret about software, which is that all of it runs on hardware. And I think that also reflects itself in what we're calling the digital transformation. There are born in the cloud, born online companies that are now moving and building hundreds of brick and mortar stores and moving into the physical world. So I think digital transformation may hide that undertone that the hardware is still involved, physical businesses are still involved. There's a lot of things that stay the same, even though you need to, again, enable this constant communication through digital means.
But when you think that you utilize some like new emerging technologies like artificial intelligence or IoT or things like that, all the aspects of the organization change. You need to change your culture, you need to change people who do it, products, processes, everything changes throughout that. So it's more than just like normal change. I would call it like transformation.
I concur with Kati that it's more of it's a means to an end. It's not an impetus unto itself. What they're trying to do, and I didn't mean to imply that having a ledger was a good idea. What I was saying was that regardless of whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea, digital transformation can winnow out the chaff. If you don't evolve, then your company could wither away and die. But if you're trying to get to someplace, whether or not that's a digital transformation or a digital evolution can be a conscious choice.
Yeah, so following on that, so this to me is the key problem here. I don't think that anyone would argue that the majority of companies shouldn't be digital. I mean, I can't imagine somebody, except in Amish country where I live in Ohio, they think the majority of companies should not be digital. But most people around the world, I think, would love to be able to interact with their bank or their restaurant or their supermarket or their job or whatever through an app, on a phone or whatever, instead of filling out paper forms. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I think maybe my biggest question about digital transformation, it relates to the second word, transformation. Is it realistic for a non-digital company truly to transform, or is it just something that they will never achieve? I mean, we all know instances of companies that try to make a step onto the web or introduce an app or whatever, and it's just a total pathetic failure because this is not a company that has that in their genes. And then some other, upstart is going to come along and eat their lunch with a digital product. So it really comes down to, can a business transform, or is it something where they just need to be replaced?
Well, I think that's predominantly dependent upon the culture of the company of itself. If you have good, strong leadership that can steer the boat, if you have people that are hungry and desiring of change, I think that is definitely a distinct possibility. If you have what I'm going to roughly call old guard people that are kind of stuck in their ways, by them being intractable, they will get eaten. Their lunch will be eaten by that upstart new company.
And also, like traditional companies have a lot of resources, a lot of people, data, they don't have the customers. So I wouldn't see any reason why they couldn't change and be leaders in the next phase too. But if they don't change, then there will be startups.
And just like every company needs a cloud strategist, they also need a digital strategist.
That's interesting. I think, not to play a semantics game, right, but I think there's something interesting in the digital transformation, which is that a lot of it happens to kind of correlate with cloud offerings. And to me, when you're moving to a public cloud, you're essentially outsourcing part of your infrastructure. And so I wonder if there's any interplay there between this idea of moving to a developer-centric company base and then outsourcing IT operations and how that affects. So is the company truly becoming digital, or is it actually becoming less digital in some ways by not running that infrastructure?
Yeah, is it becoming somebody else's problem? Mm-hmm. And to Kati's point, the larger the company can get, actually a counterpoint to it is the larger the company gets, the harder it is to move that ship. So even when you have, and we've seen it with companies that have vast amounts of resources and vast amounts of personnel, getting them to transform digitally, and I'm using air quotes for the people listening, can be a very difficult task.
Exactly, and that's really what I'm trying to get at. So if let's say you're a big automobile maker or something, right? And you're trying to go into this, ride-sharing economy. Basically, every major automobile company has developed something in-house that's been a failure, purchased a ride-sharing thing that's been a failure, thought about, well, maybe we can have people rent cars or something like that, which is a novel business model. I've never heard of such a thing. Basically, they can't do it because they have this massive customer base. They've got expectations of Wall Street. They've got all this revenue that they've got to make. It's really challenging to change your business model.
So I wonder if in that respect, digital transformation can be better applied to industries rather than to individual companies, where we, I think, agree that this drive towards digitization will happen. There may be companies that can't make that cultural shift. And to your point, they will potentially wither away while other new companies that are born digital will take their place.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things is, the companies and the leaders of the companies have to have an open mind. They need to be educated about digital strategy. Education is so paramount, and that's what a lot of what we do, Gestalt IT and people on this panel, is do a lot of education so that people can create strategy and be forward thinking and what's the next 5 years going to look like. I think that's really important for all organizations.
And on that, technology side, it's the easy part. You can do technology side easy, but what's hard is the cultural side and people side and deciding what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point, let me just ask you, put a question to you. How does a company make this happen? If they are an old school company, if they've made, I don't know, just some boring product like storage arrays or something, how does this company become a new cloud-centric, digital-centric, app-centric, whatever? How do they make that leap?
Yeah, and there of course needs to be support for this change on many levels. You have to have top leadership understanding the concept and understand the emerging technology capabilities, but also you have to utilize those experts in your organization. So it's all about creating the vision and moving towards that.
I would say that the company or the industry needs to have a strong vision of where they want to get to, and then have the people in place to push towards that vision. If you don't know what you want, then you're going to flail about. You're not going to figure it out. And a good way that we architects on the panel try to do that is by pulling the requirements. When we go into a customer, when we're talking to an industry, we're like, what are the requirements? What is it that you want to see at the end of the day? And then figure out what the delta is between where they are today and where they want to be. Are they a horse and buggy now, or are they in a Ford Model T? And do they want to get to a Lamborghini or a Tesla?
Yeah, that's very interesting, I think. And I think it plays to this idea that, again, from the idea that digital transformation is a myth, I think the definition we gave at the very beginning was really good. But I think in general, the singular idea of digital transformation may be a myth because it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. And what we're really talking about is something along the lines of, another buzzword we've talked about on these podcasts previously, which is cloud. And we talk about cloud as a place. But in reality, cloud is a consumption model, and what we're really talking about is this IT as a service modality. And so digital transformation seen from that light as maybe not necessarily an end goal again, but a way to achieve business goals through modern technology. Maybe that's the most interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and that's almost exactly what I was going to say, because the technology needs to follow the business goal. We don't implement technology just for the sake of implementing technology. We need to define what the business goals are first and then achieve that through technology.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we've all seen examples of that where somebody comes up with, somebody told them, we need an app. So they make an app, and it's useless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that means that they put the cart before the horse. So, well, I'm going to let you guys, we're going to wrap this up here with a quick summary. Let's get your final thoughts. I'm going to start at that end of the table so that we can work down to the expert last. Okay, Chris?
I'll stick to my guns. I think that digital transformation as a singular end state for any one company is a myth. But obviously there is a lot of subtext there that can help industries and help people move their companies forward.
Data centers need to move at the speed of business. They need to be self-service, and we can get there on premise.
And I'm going to stick to my guns with the it depends, and it certainly makes a difference, where the company is at, where they want to get to, and the type of leadership and impetus that they have.
Yeah. And organizations need to understand that it's all about this continuous digital transformation, so understanding how you optimize time to market for your IT service development.
So thank you very much, panelists, for discussing this topic, and thank you for listening to the On-Premise IT Roundtable. If you enjoyed this discussion, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes, since that really helps our visibility, and share the show with your friends. This podcast was brought to you by GestaltIT.com, your home for IT coverage from across the enterprise. For show notes and more episodes, go to GestaltIT.com/podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.